Welcome back to another episode of Brit Does Baseball Does podcast, and I feel like we're officially back because this is the first Rounders Roundup of the season, and it's coming out on opening day. Gaz, how you going? You excited?
I'm pumped. It's been 4 months since we've done the Rounders Roundup, 5 months even. A shorter, snappier version of our lovely podcast, which we love doing because it takes up half our effort.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've not seen any of these before, welcome. We're glad to have you. But yeah, this is a kind of weekly episode that goes along with our longer episodes that come out on the weekend, where we just kind of have a quick look around the league, see what's happening, see what headlines have kind of caught our attention, and if anything that there's worth talking about. We usually have about 5 things, and so let's start. It's opening day. Hopefully the Giants are going to beat the Yankees tonight on Netflix in front of all 7 billion people. What are we starting with? I don't have the list.
Yeah, I should probably shared that before. We're going to start. We'll start with the sad news. We'll get it out the way early. We're going to start with the injury update. Quite a few players as we come to the end of spring training, whether or not they've been hiding these injuries from their manager up till this point, or the teams have sort of taken a step back and gone, maybe he would be ready, but we've got the IL stint, so let's use it. There's a whole host of players that are going to be missing opening day because they're going to be on the IL for various reasons. We've got a who's who in baseball, really. We've got Gavin Lux, star second baseman for the Tampa Bay Rays, Lars Nootbaar, outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals. We've got Mike Tauchman, my favourite player, outfielder for the New York Mets, and was actually in line to make the opening day roster. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I believe they've got a prospect called Carson Bench, who now probably has the runaway to play right field for them. We've got Hayden Birdsong, a Giants pitcher that we all know and love, but he's out for the season with Tommy John surgery. We'll kind of touch on what that means for the Giants going forward at the end of the episode. And probably one of the bigger names, not that they're all massive, we're talking Shohei Ohtani level. Kyle Stowers, who's the only Marlins hitter that really mattered last year, he's got a hamstring strain. So he's going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. And they're going to double check on him after a month and see how he's responding to treatment. That's kind of the biggest one outside of probably the star of the injury report this week. Just on name alone and the fact the guy can hit 40 bombs. And a hamstring strain is really hard to come back from if you're a position player, because you're sprinting between the bases as an outfielder as well, changing your speed and direction. He could be out for longer than 4 weeks. But the headliner on this week's injury report is Spencer Strider, who is going to be missing some time after landing on the injured list with an oblique injury. What oblique means, it's somewhere in your back. It could be one of about 50 muscles. But yeah, he's got a strain. So this follows off the back of them losing Spencer Swellenbach and Huston Waldrop. What do you think this means for Spencer Strider for this season? Because he was, he's been sort of in and out of injury the last 2 years. And then also the wider context. How does this affect the Braves?
I think the Braves could be in a little bit of trouble a little bit earlier on than maybe we'd thought. To my knowledge, they've got a couple of starters, not just pitchers, but position players. They got Ha-Seong Kim is out as well, is he not? With the ice injury.
Yeah, he slipped on some ice and broke a finger or broke a metatarsal or something that you probably shouldn't be doing if you're a professional baseball player.
Put some shoes on, bro. It's going to be okay. Yeah, this is obviously sad news. I don't know if it seems like all of his injuries are like repeated muscle injuries, which is good because it feels like it's probably fixable. Like it's probably a few changes to his mechanics, which, could have the potential to ruin him as a pitcher. But if I'm Spencer Strider, I'm frustrated, but I'm not thinking my career's over. If I'm the Braves, I'm not thinking our season's in the bin. It's just the first few Strider starts that, he's good enough that he wins more than he doesn't. I think that it just kind of makes those 5-6 games a little bit shaky And then how long? Because he might be fit again, but then is he? How's he looking in the bullpen? Like, what's the long term effect of it? I don't know. I think he will be fine. It's just a shame for the Braves, but I don't think it changes their season too drastically.
Yeah, I think it kind of compounds the other two injuries they had. So Spencer Swellenbach is on the 60-day injured list, so he won't be back until June, I think, at the earliest. Hurston Waldrep as well had surgery to clear up some elbow fragments. Don't know how you have elbow fragments. Surely you either have an elbow or you don't.
It's just stuff floating around in there. You're essentially a bag.
Yeah, which I'd be a little bit concerned if I was a player getting that sort of surgery. But I think with those two names who are, they're going to be solid pieces of the rotation for the Braves, the fact that Strider's now going to be out for a period of time as well. Again, an oblique injury. Seiya Suzuki for the Cubs had that a couple of years ago, and he's a hitter, and it took him a while to come back. I can only imagine it's worse as a pitcher just with the mechanics. And you kind of look at their rotation now, and there's more question marks than answers. Chris Sale's coming back from injury, but he's going to be sort of 35, 36 this year. When he's on it, he's a Cy Young contender, but is he going to be on it after, the issues he had last year? I think it's just going to impact how close they can get to the Phillies and the Mets, to be honest with you. And you don't want that gap to get too big at the start of the season.
Yeah, which it very well could. The Mets and the Phillies are two very good teams. And the Braves are all right. And I don't think that's going to be enough for them. But again, I didn't particularly think that they were going to have a fantastic year anyway. So I think that's why for me it's not too big of a deal because I'm not expecting much from the Braves anyway. Feels like a big year for the prospects.
Fair enough, and they have, on the positional side, they've obviously got Ronald Acuna Matata back, Drake Baldwin, National League Rookie of the Year, Matt Olson, Austin Riley. They've got a stacked lineup. It'll be interesting to see what the pitchers can do when they're back. But we're going to move on to some happier news. We're going to go from the US to the one and only team that sits outside of the US, thank God, and that's the Toronto Blue Jays. They've gone ahead and they've extended everyone who's worth anything to them ever. So GM Ross Atkins has signed a 5-year extension as of today. And they've also extended manager John Snyder. And this is coming on from when the CEO and president Mark Shapiro also got a 5-year extension over the offseason. This is obviously coming off the back of the World Series appearance in 2025. And it appears from the offseason that they're going all in. How much of this, we talk about how much impact does a manager actually have in the game of baseball? And I think it's fair, it's kind of limited. But when you're extending the manager, the GM, and the president of the Blue Jays, how big of an impact is this for Toronto?
I think it's quite significant. And to clarify, I have an issue with what the manager does in terms of advanced tactics in a game of baseball, because what do you mean? I think that having John Schneider having that kind of confidence in there that he knows he's going to be here. He's bought in. This is his team now. And he's working with the GM who also is like, all right, well, we've got to work hard. We've got to do the best we can because I want that other contract in 5 years. I want a significant pay rise. And in order to do that, we've got to go back to the World Series. We've got to keep doing what we're doing. But now it's like, all right, we've now been rewarded for our efforts. Like, let's pay it back a little bit, And I think that it is going to have a positive effect just because, listen, man, you get a significant pay increase in a long-term contract at your job. You're going to turn up to work a little bit happier every day, I think. And I think that all the way through the organization, I think that's going to have quite a big positive effect on just the vibes of the Blue Jays, which are already pretty good.
Nice, and you said it already. It's probably the biggest significant, the fact that everyone's on the same page. It's not like the GM's been extended and the manager's like on a 1-year deal, vice versa. The president's going to be there for the same amount of time. Everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet. It's good vibes in Toronto at the moment. I think they've had a really good offseason. It could have been a bit better, but I think they've done what they needed to do. And I'm really excited to see what this next season has in store for the Blue Jays. And I think Blue Jays are rightfully very high on their team. they could go back to back with the AL East. It's going to be difficult with the Yankees and the Red Sox as well coming through. And it's just a very, very competitive division. But I think they're doing all that they can to replicate the success that they had last year coming into this year and setting that foundation for in the future. The only question mark I've got is with the CBA coming at the end of this season. Maybe could they have waited to see how that plays out with any potential lockouts? That's my only, playing devil's advocate.
It's interesting. I was listening to not to go full lockout talk, but I was listening to an interview with Matt Chapman the other day, and they asked him about, how you've been involved with some in the past and how do you think this is going to play out? And he was incredibly relaxed about it. He was like, listen, whatever happens, happens, but it's going to be for the right reason, whatever does happen. And so I don't think players and owners and the like, I don't think they're as nervous about it as we are as fans. And so I think that, it's good to have them locked in going into the CBA and things, but, I think that maybe we're making a bigger deal out of it than anybody else is that's actually involved. I think they're going to go in and figure it out, and it's going to take ages, and there's likely going to be a lockout, but I think they're all going to leave still friends with each other, hopefully.
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking about the lockout, in fits and spurts throughout the whole year, depending on what Bryce Harper comes up with, I'm going to guess. But it's going to be one for next off season where we'll probably do quite a few episodes in detail, and then we'll get to the point saying, oh, there's still no baseball. Let's talk about this instead. And we'll probably do it to death enough. So enough on the lockout for today. Apologies for bringing that up. Talking about bringing stuff up, one of my favorite players from the Cubs last year, Reese McGuire.
Oh, yeah.
Known catcher, used to be for the Red Sox, played a bit for the Blue Jays, I believe. Joined the Cubs last year as an injury replacement for Miguel Amaya and actually hit really well. Was, popping some home runs off, good enough defense. But he was never long for this world in Chicago Cubs colors. He was with the Brewers on a minor league invite, and then they released him, and he's ended up back in Chicago, but on the south side. He's joined the Chicago White Sox, and normally we wouldn't bring this up as one of the Rounders Roundup stories. Twofold why. One, not much else has happened that we haven't already spoke about in this podcast. And number two, it's a bit of a weird one for the White Sox because they had a catching combination of Edgar Quero and Corey Lee, who were doing quite well. Then you throw in prospect Kyle Teal, who got injured in the WBC playing for Italy, and was kind of, he's a bit of a charismatic player. He looked quite good in the WBC, so I was very excited to see how he would do in year 2 on his contract with the White Sox. However, going and signing Reese McGuire to a 1-year major league deal for $1.2 million. If I was a White Sox catcher, I'd be pretty miffed at that because Corey Lee and Quero were there last year, and Kyle Teal's obviously that prospect that's coming up. Do you think this is just a stopgap and they've just given him $1 million to just play maybe 20 games until Kyle Teal comes back? Or do you think this could be a real problem for that big prospect coming through?
I think they've seen an issue. I don't think they've done this just for the sake of it. They very clearly know something that we don't. And so there will be a reason. It could be that he's signed and then, he gets cut. They pay him out the contract halfway through the year. There will be a reason they've signed him. It's just not apparent to us yet why. And I haven't watched heaps of Chicago White Sox spring training, so maybe there's a little bit of an injury bug going on with the catchers. Maybe they're just not performing well. They want to get someone down to AAA to kind of get their confidence back up a bit more. Who knows? But yeah, signing an extra catcher rather than promoting one would mean that they had to. It's not like you can just shift someone over to catch. It's maybe the only position you can't do that. So something's going on.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. We may not cover the White Sox too much this year because none of us are White Sox fans, and we think they'll have a fun team, but not necessarily a good team. But because it was a cup last year, I just wanted to throw that in there. Couple more stories before we get to our final segment of the day. The ABS challenge system is, as we all know, is going to be in use for the first time in regular season gameplay and the playoffs in 2026. For those of you that don't know what ABS stands for, it stands for something that I do not have: abs, abdominal muscles.
Absolute bullshit. That's what it stands for. Am I right? No.
I think about 10% of the fans would agree with you based on our poll. The automated ball system, I feel like they could have maybe jazzed that up a little bit. It's a system where basically robots are going to be helping the umpires. So each team will get 2 challenges to start the game. If they think a ball or a strike has been called incorrectly by the umpire, either the batter, the pitcher, or the catcher just needs to tap the side of their helmet within 2 seconds of the ball being pitched or the call being made, and then they can challenge that and it will go to the robo-umps. If any part of the ball is hitting the zone, it's either a strike or a ball. If you get the decision, if the call gets correctly overturned, you retain your challenge. If not, you lose your challenge. What that means for baseball effectively is that every pitcher is probably going to be banned from using the ABS system to start the year, mainly because they think that everything they throw is going to be a strike. It's likely that catchers probably got the best view of it, so they'll be the ones to sort of tap the side of their helmet. Hitters as well, there's some that will greatly benefit from this because, due to their height and difference in statures, they can sometimes get squeezed by the umpire. What's good about it is that the zone for each player is dependent on their height. So Aaron Judge is not going to have the same strike zone as Jose Altuve. What that also has led to is the fact that MLB have had to go out and measure all of the players for the automated ball systems. And there's quite a few players that have decreased in height dramatically from one year to the other. So one of them, to the top of my head, is Alex Bregman, who was 6 foot last year, and now all of a sudden he's 5'10" in 2026.
Oh, he's gone Tinder with his fucking height there. That's hilarious.
Quite a few of them have. I personally think the ABS system is going to be good for baseball. I don't know many people that disagree with me. It takes out the catcher's framing a little bit, but the amount of games we've seen on blown calls and, the WBC semi-final between Dominican Republic and the US, where the ABS system wasn't in play, obviously that ended on quite a controversial call. Cal, what's your view on the ABS system?
I think it actually gives more value to catcher's framing. To be clear, I like the ABS system. I think it's great, and I think that teams having 2 challenges is good. 3 would feel a little bit like, all right, we can do it once every other inning. There's no point in that. But the 2 gives it a little bit more jeopardy, I think, and not wanting to waste them. Like, I don't think you're going to see many first inning ABS challenges, But I think that it's then the framing is even more important, because if you can sell, the frame job to a point where even the batter is not sure, and it's like, well, he's got to make the decision, and he cannot confer with anyone else really because of the 2 seconds. You kind of got to look ahead, and it's immediate, right? I think that it's gonna, I think this makes defensive catchers more valuable, just because of their knowledge and their manipulation of the strike zone. And if they get caught out, fine, you caught me. I was being sneaky anyway, So yeah, I think it's good, and it's also fun. It adds a little bit more suspense to the 6th inning. It's going to be interesting how many game-ending situations come down to an ABS call, but because it is really fast. From seeing it in spring training, it's so quick. It takes maybe 10 seconds, and it's just looking over at the screen, and you see it come up on the TV, and it's like, oh shit. Ah, he's out. All right, fine. But I think it's good. I've liked it in tennis for a long time, and they use it significantly more. So yeah, I think I'm a fan of it. It's because it's not every pitch. It has to be requested, and I think that's good. I don't think they're going to overturn having humans referee the games and things, but I think it is nice to have that little bit of extra help in those huge moments, especially for umpires, like mental health reasons. There's probably going to be less angry tweets throughout the season.
Yeah, what makes it even better is some of the the umpire behind the plate has to like say it into a hot mic that the whole stadium and the broadcaster can hear. So there was one in spring training where they called for a review, and the umpire went, "Oh, they're calling for a review, blah blah blah," and you show him go, "Please God, let this be a strike." It wasn't. Good. It wasn't a strike. It was overturned, but it was quite funny.
That's all right. I like that. That's good.
Our final story before we go into our final, we won't do it often, but we're going to do like a sort of, a team check-in with the Giants and the Cubs. Yankees first baseman Ben Rice has got himself a sponsorship deal. Cal, do you want to talk us more about that?
I could talk about this forever. This is good. This is phenomenal marketing. I don't know whose team reached out to who, but I'm glad the other one replied. So Ben Rice has himself an Uncle Ben's Rice endorsement deal, and that can only be positive things for the Yankees, for baseball, for people around the world in general. I want to see some limited edition flavors like sunflower seed rice and shit like that. Like, get silly with it. I think there's a lot of potential to get really fun about it. It's just good. I love stuff like that. This is like when Cal Raleigh did an advert last year for like a regional Portaloo company. And it was good. It was just phenomenal. It's seeing the fun side of baseball in a corporate way. It makes me happy.
Yeah, if you can think of any other advertisements, if you're listening to this, then let us know in the comments or DM us, which ones you've enjoyed. I personally enjoyed Freddie Freeman with the Toronto Children's Hospital, where Ryan Reynolds has brought him in. Obviously, Freddie Freeman plays for the Dodgers. He comes into the Canadian Children's Hospital and they boo him out the room, which I thought was hilarious.
They're like, how dare you?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I just want to take this moment as well. If you're listening to this and you haven't liked or subscribed, please do. It really helps our following. It helps our Instagram followers. It just helps our outreach. We're trying to grow this as a Baseball podcast. We don't ask often. We may start asking more. But yeah, drop us a follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give us a like or a subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening on one of the random clips, then I don't know, drop us a DM. I don't know what you do on Instagram. Like, comment. A lot of you do. A lot of you hate us. It's quite funny. But more of you love us. Coming up to so we're almost wrapping up here, but it's opening day and we just want to have a little bit of a check-in with, mainly for ourselves as a mental health check-in, but also an opening day check-in. So if you don't know by now, I'm a Cubs fan and Cal is a Giants fan. So we just want to spend a couple of minutes sort of, how we're feeling for opening day, how we think the rosters are going to look, and how we think we're going to fare in the first couple of weeks. As opening day is the Giants going to the Yankees, it is only fair that Cal starts off with a bit of a Giants catch-up. So over to you.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I'm feeling optimistic. Unfortunately being optimistic in the NL West doesn't really get you anywhere, but hopefully I'm hoping for anything above 500 is a colossal success. I think having an infield of Matt Chapman, Willie Adames, Luis Arias, and Rafi Devers is 5 years too late, but fucking incredible. What do you mean? That's fantastic. Harrison Bader was looking pretty good out in center field. Jung Hoo Lee's playing right field now, and I think they're using him a bit better. There was a lot of pressure put on him to be the leadoff guy and to be fantastic, and he was, he's very fast and he's a great contact hitter, but he's maybe not worth as much of his contract as being paid. And then Heliot Ramos is going to be fine. Pitching wise, there's the bullpen's a little bit scary. And Hayden Birdsong missing the year to Tommy John is a bit spooky. He was kind of in line to kind of be a flex between starting or kind of long relieving in there, and that's not going to happen now. And there was a big emphasis on getting him ready and having his control better, because the year before, very good. Last year, not quite as good. And it's just kind of left a couple more question marks. But the Giants, if they have anything, it's pretty good young pitchers. So I think, Carson Wisenhunt and Carson Seymour and some of the guys that we saw last year are just going to be a little bit more important. They signed and then released Joey Lucchesi, who was good last year, because they've signed. I can't remember his name, but he agreed a deal with someone, but then they didn't end up signing the deal, so he's a free agent again. So they signed him. The Giants have signed him now. It's like Bruker or something. I don't know. Some guy. I don't know much about him, but they wanted him at the start of free agency, and then kind of settled for Joey Lucchesi, which feels bad because Lucchesi was good for the Giants last year. But they want to go in a separate direction, and that's happening. And for the Giants to believe so much in this other guy that they've just signed to let Lucchesi go, then I'm kind of fine with it. Still no official word on who the closer is. It's probably Ryan Walker. I just hope he's, 2 years ago Ryan Walker and not last year Ryan Walker. I want 99 strikeouts, Ryan Walker. Bryce Eldridge is in AAA to start the year. That's probably a good thing. And I don't think we know who the fourth outfielder is yet. I'm optimistic.
Who would you want to be the fourth outfielder? Because you've got a few options, Drew Gilbert, Gerard Encarnacion. I'm not going to Encarnacion. Will Brennan. You got a couple of options there.
Yeah, there's like 7 guys. I would prefer Gerard Encarnacion. Drew Gilbert hasn't really played enough this spring, so he's got to kind of play his way back. But they had Jared Olivier. I don't remember. He was pretty good. Will Brennan was pretty good, and I forget his first name, but a fella by the name of Barricotto was fantastic. He was sent down early to AAA. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but it's tough for the Giants starting outfielders. There's a lot of good young guys that are very close to being ready to making that jump up. Grant McRae as well. If he can figure out what kind of hitter he is, then fucking fantastic. But that's enough of the big boys. We got a really awful start to the year. The first month is ass, but how are the Cubs looking?
We're kind of around. I think we've got a losing record in spring training, but I'm just telling myself it doesn't really matter. Just to sort of break down where we're at. Seiya Suzuki will miss opening day. He got a sprain in the WBC trying to steal a base for Team Japan. So he will be out. I think they're going to do like a 7-day IL stint. So he'll probably miss the first week, maybe the first 2 weeks of the season. Okay. What does that mean for the Cubs? It means that we have a massive hole in our lineup with the bats. Last year we had Kyle Tucker, who, whilst I did take the piss out of him a fair bit on this podcast, was still an above average hitter. Where we're at now, the outfield is going to be Ian Happ in left, PCA is going to be in center, and it looks like Michael Conforto is going to be the starting right fielder for the Chicago Cubs in 2026, which, if you'd have told me before last year, I'd have been all right with. If you told me after last year's performance, where he didn't even make the playoff roster for the Dodgers, yeah, that's kind of why I'm a little bit apprehensive. The infield is looking good. I think we've got one of the best defensive teams in baseball. We've got Alex Bregman, obviously, in the free agency deal to play third base. Michael Bush is going to come back and play first. And then the middle infielder, Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner, find me a more consistent pairing than those two. They complement each other really well. If Swanson wants to have the day off, Horner just slides over to shortstop. It's like having 2 shortstops on the field. It's amazing. It's great. Behind the plate, it's going to be Carson Kelly and Miguel Amaya, who I'm really excited to be healthy this season. Shown good improvements at the plate as a hitter. Carson Kelly's got that veteran presence, played like 92 games last year, so he's got the knees to do it. Wow. But I think an extra little bit of rest will help him, be that powerful hitter that he showed in like a month and a half last year. And we've got Moises Ballesteros, who will be the primary DH for the Cubs this year. Left-handed bat, little pudgy boy, little bit of catching, but the man's got good bat-to-ball skills and good power to boot. The bullpen, we signed basically half the Texas Rangers bullpen from last year. Daniel Palencia is coming back to be our closer. Last year looked really good. I've got a bit of concern just with the curse of the closer. In 2023, we had Adbert Alzolay. In 2024, he ended up injured and was awful. In 2024, we had Porter Hodge. 2025, he was unplayable. 2025, we ended up with Danny Palencia. How's he going to do in 26? He looked nasty for Venezuela in the WBC, so I'm hoping he can replicate that. The rest of the bullpen, as I said, Hunter Harvey is the only non-Rangers that we basically signed. Jacob Webb, Phil Maton, and there's a lefty, Hobie Milner, that we signed from there. Caleb Philbar's come back, and then we've got Ben Brown, who has found a third pitch, but they're going to use him in the bullpen, which is great because he's only really got 2 good pitches. When he was a starter, when you see the same guy for 100 pitches, it's 50% of one pitch, 50% of the other. You wait out for either the fastball or the curveball, and he got smacked around like fuck. And Colin Ray, who's probably been our best looking starter in spring training, is going to be our long relief option. In the rotation, question marks, to be honest with you. Jameson Tyone, who looked good at the back end of last year, he's sporting like a 20 ERA in spring training. He got knocked around. Matthew Boyd got overworked last year. I'm hoping he can be that guy for the whole year. Shota Imanaga, I want him to be like he was in his first year, not his second year. And then Cade Horton, he's not really a question mark for me. I think he's going to be our ace, at least until Justin Steele comes back. And then Edward Cabrera, who we acquired from the Marlins, who's really got that X factor. 97, 98 on the fastball. Can he keep healthy? We traded a fair bit to get him. Overall, I'm feeling quite optimistic. I think we had quite a good off-season, as we've sort of mentioned already. The big one being Alex Bregman. I like the idea of Matt Shaw being in a super utility role because he's got good defense, just needs to find the bat somewhere. I'm excited. I'm also apprehensive because I've been down this road before where I thought we were going to cakewalk the NL Central last year, and the Brewers were just, I don't know, good at baseball. Yeah. And I don't know what they're going to be like this year. So quietly apprehensive, but I'm excited overall just for meaningful baseball to start. Yeah,
I dig it. Spring training is about 2 weeks too long, I think. Shorten spring training. They don't need it. It'll be fine.
I'm sure the Players Union will take that into account when they do the collective bargaining agreement. And on that note, I think we're gonna finish up with this opening Rounders Roundup for opening day. Cal, thank you so much for joining us. Gaz, thank you so much for joining us. I'm talking in the third person. Welcome to the season, fans. Brit Does Baseball, 2 episodes a week, 1 on Wednesday, 1 on Sunday.
Let's go.
Maybe occasionally it changes based on who's available and who's not. You're going to be hearing from myself, Cal, George, Alan, Josh, and maybe some extra special guests. We'll have interviews for you, weekly catch-ups. Family Fortunes is coming back. That'll be back in about a month. Cal's going to be looking to avoid going 0-3 in the game, but it's a special guest who's taking him on. All that's left to say is like, subscribe, follow us, do whatever you want to do. Help grow our podcast. We love it. We don't get any money for this as much as you may think we do because we're so professional. Also, look out. We've got a couple more surprises coming your way coming soon. All that's left to say is because I've gone on speaking too long and my voice is starting to hurt. Cal's been Cal, Gaz has been Gaz. You've been fantastic. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you and goodbye.